You can't delegate digital transformation for your company. You and your executives have to own it. Executives need to engage, embrace, and adopt new ways of working with the latest in emerging technologies. And that's where we come in. Welcome to Embracing Change. The business world is changing at a faster pace than it ever has, and companies need to keep up. We interview the most interesting CEOs, CMOs, and other executives to talk about their challenges with digital transformation in their industry. This is Embracing Change, and this is your host, Gerardo Kerik.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Embracing Change. I'm your host, Gerardo Kerik, and today we have a very special guest joining us. I'm thrilled to welcome Robert Mitchell, the Chief AI Officer at WSI. Robert brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in the world of artificial intelligence and its applications in business. If you're curious to learn more about Robert and his journey, check out his profile on LinkedIn. I will also add the link in the notes of this podcast. But today, we'll be diving into how AI can provide a significant competitive edge for businesses and the urgency of adopting AI to keep pace in our fast-changing market. Before we get started, I just want to say that this podcast is sponsored by WSI. So before we dive into our conversation, I want to remind you to explore WSI's AI consulting services. Whether you're looking to integrate AI into your current operations or build bespoke AI tools to maximize profitability through productivity, our team is here to help. Visit our website or contact us to find out how we can support your AI journey. Again, I'll add those links in the notes of this podcast. Now, here is Robert. Hi, Robert. How are you?
How you doing? Good to be here.
I'm very happy to have you. I just been waiting to record a podcast with you for a while. I think that you're a very busy man.
The AI is a busy time in the world of AI, and that's where I am right now. So yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So just for the benefit of our audience, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit in terms of your background, where you're based, etc.
Yes, I'm based in the US in Virginia. I've been in the franchise industry specifically for the last 23 years and been just a technologist and highly involved with technology. And so when ChatGPT came out and became more readily accessible to the masses. I mean, I had a computer science minor when I was in college. I played around with C++ and all those fun things, but never really used it in the real world. But when GPT came out, it became accessible to the common man, myself included, and it kind of reignited my fervor for AI. And I just dived in head first and became an expert in no time. And there I am.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And when you and I prepped for this conversation, we talked about the importance of recording a podcast on AI that it's actually based on use cases. That it's not, this is not going to be a technical podcast, right? So for the listeners actually joining, just so you know, if you want the very technicality of AI, you're not going to find it here. Here, what we want to talk about is how AI is going to impact small and medium-sized businesses and what you should be thinking of when thinking about integrating AI into your operations.
Correct. Yes, I agree.
That's excellent. So let's start with talking about AI. Robert, can you start by giving us a brief overview of AI in the business landscape?
The funny thing about AI is it's a term that's used, and AI has been around, artificial intelligence has been around for 60 years. So it's not like it's a new concept. And the concept is making machines think and act and behave like humans, right? Or process like humans. What has made the massive change recently and made businesses allowed to use it? Now, businesses have been using it. Amazon Cart, your text to speech, your autocorrect on your messages app, all those are AI generated. Obviously, the Tesla is lots of artificial intelligence used in navigating the lanes in a car. But what we're talking about in the business world is more of the large language generative AI sphere. What came about from ChatGPT and its launch a couple of years ago, it opened up the floodgates. Part of the floodgates were strictly the accessibility of this model for the common person, like I mentioned a second ago. And why that's the case and how that's the case is that You don't have to know the parlance of computer science to extract some great uses from these models. They speak like a human, they respond like a human. They speak Spanish, they speak Italian, they speak every language on the planet. So you don't need to worry about that being a barrier either. They speak code. If you want to talk to them about different aspects of Python, they can speak your language of coding as well. So when you ask the question about AI and business, it starts to factor in, we're not talking about having a hammer in search of a nail. AI is not this product that you're going out and you're pitching to the masses. It's not a SaaS product in its most truest sense. It's a solution maker, right? It is a tool used in creating solutions for organizations. So when you're looking at how to implement it in a business, it's more about finding out where the pain point is, looking at that pain point through the lens of AI, and problem solving that pain point by creating an AI solution. And that's
Mhm.
kind of what we're seeing in business with the clients that we're working with.
Yeah. So if I were to think through and try to repeat what you just said, I think we're talking about identifying use cases within organizations where AI can actually improve productivity or profitability, right? It's looking at those elements of a workflow that can be done better through this new technology.
Truly. So, and I use this analogy all the time, and I guess I'm a broken record, but we're looking at a person's role, not the CEO, although the CEO is involved in the dialogue and the strategy of AI implementation. But we put that person over here. They're paying the bill. Okay. We're
Mhm.
looking at the soldiers in the front lines doing tasks. We're looking at the people who are in the accounting department or in the sales department, in the supply chain. And we're saying, what do you do every day? Well, I do this. I collect data from all these different points, create a spreadsheet so we can better understand our clients or our employees or whatever. Well, if you have 30 clicks of a mouse and we can bring that down to one, isn't that a productivity savings that you'd like to look at? And if you take that at scale and you have $1 million payroll in your organization and you're able to optimize their work 10%, you just, in essence, did $100,000 addition in profitability to your bottom line. Now it might be unlocked in the form of not having to hire a new employee, or the employees that you currently have not having as stressful of a day in their work. But my point is that 10% unlock is real numbers and real productivity that can, in essence, lead to a more valuable company overall. So when we look at the business, we're looking at unlocks. We start to look at those minutia, those little tasks that are highly data driven, highly repetitive, and human in nature that are not quite human intellect regarding. Lots of clicks of the mouse does not involve the problem solving abilities of a human. So we can take those tasks and sure, lead those to humans, but the tasks that we have AI address are allowing them the time to address the human tasks. Does that make sense, Gerardo?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is almost like having a turbocharged, super intelligent assistant next to you,
Sure.
where you're delegating all of these repetitive activities, or it could be high value activities for it to do.
Hmm.
You still need to brief what those activities need to be. You still need to review that they were done correctly. There are elements that the human still needs to be very much involved, but you have now this muscle
Hmm.
that you didn't have before that could actually accelerate a lot of these activities that before would take you a much longer time to do.
Sure. And a lot of those that you're saying is activities, many of the first iterations of the generative AI tools, like the large language models like ChatGPT and Anthropic, were ideation, content creation. Those are the easy wins, the easy ways that people connect. They use the tools to be like, I'm thinking about starting a business. What should I think about? And that kind of ideation, who are you going to talk to? Do you have any experts that know anything about starting a business that you could talk to that wouldn't charge you money? So
Mhm.
you have now the access of the smartest person in the room or the smartest person in probably 1,000 rooms at your access. Now, they're not right all the time or they don't know everything, but they guarantee know more than you.
Of
Maybe
course,
not,
of course.
not on every topic. You might be more smarter than them on a couple topics, but they're smarter than you on many more topics than you're smart. And
Of
so
course.
why that's important is that when you are task or you're trying to ideate or trying to brainstorm or trying to come up, that's where a lot of the first use cases came from. And then it started to be like, well, how do we automate some of those things? And then that's where the huge unlocks happen.
Of course. So I would like to still staying in the concept of the landscape. Okay. I like to assume that our listeners are going to be a combination of people that know little about AI and people that know a little bit more about AI. But
Mm,
I would like to level the playing field and just could we talk a little bit about the major models that are available right now, from ChatGPT to Claude to everything else,
sure.
and then maybe talk about the more niche examples of tools,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like tools for different processes, just to paint the picture of what the landscape is looking like right now.
hmm So think of ChatGPT as like Target or actually Super Target. You can get your groceries there, but you can also get clothes there. You can also get furniture there. You can also get electronics there. It's kind of a catch all. And I think that ChatGPT is the biggest in the block. And it's what most people know about because it can successfully and accurately and efficiently perform a lot of the tasks it's asked for. So when you look at the 800-pound gorilla on the marketplace, it's going to be ChatGPT.
Mhm.
And so it can do text to speech, it can do conversational AI and talk. You can have API access, which is a fancy way of saying it can talk to your apps. You can access the tool and put it into a sequence of different automations. So that's what an API could allow you to do. But the other one, the bigger ones on the block, Anthropic is really good. So a lot of the time, anytime I'm creating a or responding to a very important email or making a proposal, I will put the request in both ChatGPT and Anthropic Opus. And
Mhm.
Opus is their 4.0 or their version of their most sophisticated
Yeah.
model. And they're, I don't want to get too much of the technical, but Anthropic is built a little bit different. They're built on what's called a constitutional AI,
Mhm.
whereas OpenAI is built more on the checks and balances of RLHF, which is reinforcement learning from human feedback, RLHF. And so they built the protections and the safety mechanisms kind of over time. Like they slap the hand on a response, like don't respond like this, respond like that. And so you do that a million times. That's what you have with ChatGPT. Whereas Anthropic's model is built on the rules, like this,
Mhm.
the constitution of how you need to behave and
Mhm.
only respond if it fits within the constitutional parameters that we've set forth. And
Mhm.
so when you have that kind of, I guess we call it alignment, you have a different output and it performs a little bit differently. And so some say better, some say not. So anyway, those are the two models that I use the most.
Mhm.
And you would also include Microsoft inside of ChatGPT because they're 49% owner of it. So
Mhm.
that's kind of, so their models have not the same. They don't call on the GPT. They have their own instance, but they're using the same technology and they've built it. So using it inside of Bing or now inside of Copilot, they're really stretching the boundaries of what AI is doing inside of their ecosystem, inside of Teams and whatnot. Then you, of course, you have Google,
Mhm.
which they're trying. They did a good job recently. For the last 12 months, they've had a lot of mud on their face for not really playing well in the game. They haven't been competitive, but they launched recently. They have Gemini, which is their version. It has a few benefits that the others don't have, like a little bit better at accessing your Google Docs and your emails. So as I've mentioned, all these, we do this in our training sessions where we take on clients. We have workshops that we run. And I think a lot of what this helps people realize is that not all AI, generative AI, LLMs, large language models are created equal. So you need to know which one you task with which request. Some of them are better at certain requests than others. And
Yeah.
so we go through that on the call. And so all four of those I mentioned are good or bad at certain things. And they
Mhm.
hallucinate, which is the term for making stuff up when they don't have true content to answer the question you've asked. Now, now going back to your question, and you can cut me off further if you want to, if you want to jump in, but you mentioned those ancillary products.
Well,
And
no, the only thing I was going to say is that I do the same. I play with these major language models in parallel, and I actually love Anthropics. I love
mm,
Claude. I think especially for context and content creation and emails and all of that. The language is way better. It sounds more human.
it
The way
does, doesn't it? Yeah.
it gets way better the context of a transcript, for example. So
Yep.
I like that. But for everything else, that right now I'm using more ChatGPT and bespoke applications. Like we talked about the script for podcasting, and
Mm.
there's others that are very specific. For example, Perplexity AI. I love using it for research, right? So
Have
I
you
love.
used Pages yet? The new Pages.
No,
Okay,
no, I
so
haven't.
inside of Perplexity, so I don't have pro version of Perplexity, and I'm really kicking myself because I guess I need to buy it because I spend $200 a month on all these different services, and I'm
Yeah,
getting a little bit over the top. But
yeah.
Perplexity has this new thing called Pages that basically you give it a topic and it'll build you, for instance, a Wikipedia page of sort of all
Mhm.
the content and different links to sources. It's a brilliant use. But Perplexity is what I was going to talk about. That's the one that bridges the gap. For those who don't know what that is, it bridges the gap between a search functionality of Google search with the large language model power. And it puts those together in a way that Google should have done a freaking year ago. Like they should have already been on top of this. And Perplexity, they they did it. They did it the right way. So you
Yep,
get
nailed
all the
it.
best of both worlds.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the. Why don't we try to bring this down to what it means for business? So I would love to talk about user cases, and I know that
Mm.
through the WSI consulting that we both provide, and of course you're way more involved because you work with all of the WSI agencies. Um, let's talk about real examples of use cases. Is there something you could share on how a normal business, not a major corporation, a mid-sized business, have actually used AI to gain productivity, profitability, results?
Well, I have several. I have so many in my head. So one that jumps out at me first when he said that, because everybody has employees for the most part, even solopreneurs have vendors, but and everybody has payroll. Recently, we were working with a client. We just finished up our engagement. We did our final report, which is very robust. It goes through a lot of things during our AIBA, our artificial intelligence business analysis. We do deep dives with departments and we extract out those main use cases and say, these are the unlocks you need to do to maximize opportunity, to maximize everything. And so we identified like 20 or so use cases, or I would say custom projects we can build. And the one
Mhm.
that really stands out to me with this client was this: every 2 weeks, they have to do payroll. Okay, again, this is everybody has payroll.
Yeah.
And this particular client, the really interesting part is they incentivize their employees with bonuses. So they have a base pay they pay their employees. And if you're able to, as an employee, uh, don't look at your phone while you're in the vehicles because they do deliveries. If you
Mhm.
can make your deliveries within a certain time period, not speed or whatever. If you can make sure you're up to date on your safety courses that you're taking and you're wearing the right safety gear, each one of those, you get a bonus of a $2 an hour, $2 an hour. So every 2 weeks, payroll department or the operations team, more importantly, has to assess all these variables for all their employees because that affects the employee's paycheck that week. If they did all these
Mhm.
things, they get extra bonuses, right? Which is brilliant for the business because they're able to really save on safety because not looking at your phone while you're driving is a big deal. Now, all that is because all that setup is what I'm telling you is because now you know the pain point. The pain point is a day and a half every 2 weeks to do the payroll for this operations person who's not in the accounting department. It's just like the operations guy, like the manager. He's got to do this. Well, he's got this spreadsheet. He's got these places. He goes out to the software for the vehicle to get the camera and make sure the GPS locator for the vehicle, the other software for their company that tells you their delivery times, all this stuff, right? Access for all those employees, day and a half. We can do that now with one click of a button. Not just one click of a button. Now we have insights. We can go, Bob, he was able to do that. His pay rate is this, but you also know he was the fastest at delivering and also this, that, and the other. We can give them actionable insights and we can also tie that into QuickBooks. So it's all automated. All you got to do is have a human approve the pay. Now, talk about somebody that's probably paid 80,000 a year. Now you're taking that day and a half off their plate. That is worth $5,000. I think it's what it's gonna cost to build that tool.
Mhm.
That's absolutely brilliant and
Yeah,
a huge
absolutely.
use case.
Absolutely. And you've just liberate the time for that person to actually do add value to the business rather
Mhm.
than go through all of this data and try to find this information. That's
Right.
fantastic.
But the important thing though, on all this, Gerardo, it's very important to realize we wouldn't have known that was what needed to be built to save whatever a day and a half every 2 weeks is for that employee. We wouldn't have known that unless we did the full deep dives, unless we've done the full engagement. So we had to go into their organization. That's just one solution. We have several other solutions we're building for this client in other department. But this particular department was like, this is huge. We got to help on this. We got to build this. And it's a really easy fix.
Yeah.
So that's the
So,
key.
yeah, and I'm glad you're making an emphasis on this point, because I think the whole point here is that on not unlike other consulting endeavors, uh, we need to do a discovery, we need to do a deep dive, we need to do a business assessment, identify the biggest areas of opportunity,
Mhm.
and then attack those first, right? So it's not
Right.
like just coming in and saying, okay, we're going to be implementing AI. It's about, okay, let's come in, let's understand your business, let's understand your working processes, let's understand where there are opportunities of improving those processes, and
Mhm.
then let's um, put them in order of importance. Rather, is it because of productivity, profitability, because it's a showstopper for
Mhm.
growing, or whatever that is? And then let's tackle each of those and see how AI can actually improve those.
The irony though is that clients come to us with something in their mind about AI and they want something built. I heard about this. I want my competitors using this, or I saw it on 60 Minutes. I want you to build this for me. And 9 times out of 10, it's the wrong use case. It's the wrong unlock. It's the wrong everything, because it's a sexy, shiny penny. And it's like a AI chatbot for the website. Everybody wants those. We
Mhm.
can build those and roll them out like easy. But
Mhm.
the problem is what problem is that solving? Not enough of the problem. That's why we go into these deep dives and these departmental processes and workflows and be like, I'd rather you spend money here because you save $100,000 here, where this you'd save a little bit money or time or make your customer experience nicer, which we can always do, but
Yeah,
not at instead of the other one. So it's important
yeah,
that we do that.
yeah. So, are there any specific AI applications that the majority of businesses should consider implementing beyond before? I'm thinking at the not deep, not thinking about solving a pain. Are there any specific tools that you would ask a business owner, why isn't that you haven't started using that?
Yeah, well, that's easy. You need to use Otter, Fireflies, Fathom, Build Better, any of the meeting transcription services. If you use Zoom once a week, you need to have a subscription to one of those platforms. That's a no-brainer. If you're not doing that right now, I remember 3 years ago, I do lots of my calls via Zoom call. I,
Mhm.
I was almost embarrassed to record the call. I was like, oh, they're gonna be mad. They're gonna be like, now if I don't record it, I'm not on it. Like you don't let me record this call and do the transcription, I don't want to be on it, because it's that important for me to be able to review and have a note taker take notes, summarize the meeting, fit it back out to everybody's responsibilities and tasks to do. That's low lying fruit. Everybody should have a note taker. Number one. But let's go a different direction on that, Gerardo. Let me answer that differently. If you're not training your team up, you're going to lose their capacity. You're going to fall behind. So organization needs to upskill their team. Is what you're having, and this is kind of, you and I talked about this offline earlier, is the gap is widening. I have a group that I have to prepare for every Monday. It's a AI meetup.
I'm part of that group.
Yeah.
I'm part of your group.
So
Yeah.
I have to research all the news that's happening every. I spend 4 hours every Monday morning. So if I do it Sunday night, it's too late. I got to
Mhm.
do it the day of in order to make it relevant, right? So I research all the news and all this stuff, and I'm having a hard time keeping up. Imagine the employees that have an accounting role and a sales role and a supply chain. They have jobs to do. They don't have time to research AI. So my point is that we need you as an organization or as a company need to upskill your employees, train them on tools that are very easy to use. Maybe it's just ChatGPT, and they can use it at their whim to help make their job easier. If you're not doing that, I guarantee your competitors are, and they're more efficient than you, and their prices are going to go down, the market share is going to go up, and you lost.
Yeah.
You've
So,
got to learn it now.
okay, so let me expand on that question. What risks do companies face if they delay AI integration or AI um, openness? What are they risking?
They're risking their livelihood. They're risking their relevance. And is in no uncertain terms, they risk being out of
It-
business and
yeah.
obsolete. Yes. And that's not hyperbole. There's a truth to the fact that mm, businesses are able to leapfrog. And this is a call out to SMEs. This is a call out to those businesses that have competitors that are 20 times their size. Okay.
Mhm.
Those SMEs that have those competitors, you are more nimble than they are. You can turn your ship easier than they are. Their team is 1,000 strong. Yours is only 100 strong. You can train 100 employees and you can integrate tools that make you able to leapfrog them in market share because you can adapt quicker. So do that now so you can catch up to them or pass them by. These other companies, they're so slow to integrate. And even when they do have training, it isn't really meaty and isn't really specific. And it's kind of like HR just kind of throws training processes at them. But the SMEs or the medium sized businesses, it's a great unlock time for you guys. This is the first time in history that I think you're going to be able to catch up, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what we're saying is that the gap between the AI adopters and the non-adopters is actually going to widen and keep doing that, right? And I guess every month you're delaying this decision is it's a month that now you have to track back and try to catch up.
Right. And even let me just say this too, even though for those who argue the case that, well, if I had integrated it in February, there's a new tool now that they have in April. Yeah. But imagine how much efficiency you gained in those 3 months or whatever that your competitors didn't. So if you're waiting for the perfect tool or the final version of the AI, it ain't here. It ain't, you're waiting for something that'll never happen. It's like, when am I going to be rich? There's no number when you're all of a sudden rich, So
Yeah.
there's no number, there's no AI that's going to give you all the answers. You're best to adopt what there is now and adapt to the new versions as they come out, because then you have a team that's adaptable. Here's the thing, when it comes to AI, it's all about changing your mindset of
Mhm.
how you problem solve. And once you get that through everybody's head, the kids these days, the ones that are coming out of high school, and my daughter's in high school, I'm talking with their headmaster about when do we start allowing them to use AI. And my argument is 11th or 12th grade, right?
Mhm.
Because they're going to have a mentality just like I had a calculator watch. I was the first in my class to have a calculator watch in school, and I was able to do math on my watch. And that was like we had calculators in school when they used to not allow you to have calculators. So the kids nowadays are going to have AI as their tool, as their calculator. And so their expectations of them are going to be higher. We're going to be competing with the people coming out of school that's a normal. And so the workforce that's currently here needs to be upskilled using those same tools. Otherwise, the kids coming out of school are going to be way surpassing the ones that are in business now.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that you just touched upon is the mentality that we
Mhm,
need in order to embrace and approach this new revolution, quite honestly, right? Because I get the point that there's going to be new tools, there's going to be better tools. This is moving so fast that how do I choose? I have this fear of missing out, right? That, okay,
mhm,
I'm marrying myself or my process to this tool that I know fix this for me today. But
mhm,
what if in 4 months' time, there's something that does it even better, right? And I
mhm,
get what we're arguing here is that the tools are great, but the tools are not the point. The point is the mentality that there is going to be technology that is going to help us improve these processes. And if we understand the processes and we understand that there's technology that can help us, then we can use our judgment to rapid fire, rapid iterate in between tools when something better comes up. But to wait for the perfect tool is actually not a strategy because there's always going to be a better tool. And what we have to do is jump onto the swimming pool of AI and start swimming, really,
yeah.
start swimming. And then if they hand us something to swim more efficient, then we'll do that. But we need to learn that we're going to be living in this world.
Very interesting you say it that way. I have a quote that I recently pushed on my LinkedIn, and I think it's relevant to what you just alluded to. So he said, there's a guy, ServiceNow CEO. I'm not familiar with the company, but it's called ServiceNow, and the CEO is being interviewed. And he said, we're in a tsunami of change, which I love that imagery. But he said, this is very important because I believe every word of this. Every workflow for every company in every industry in the world will be reimagined in the next 24 months. If you look at that from I guess, a fairly smart guy, that seemed perfectly a way to iterate what's going on. So you're saying people that are kind of behind or not willing to keep up with everybody, that's what you need to keep in mind is they are changing with or without you wanting to change the industries, the workflows, every company, everywhere in the world. That's what you need to think about in the back of your head. And the other thing that you talked about earlier that I really don't think we pushed on enough is just a 10% productivity gain. Imagine if it was 40% productivity gain for your
Of
staff
course.
or employees.
Of course.
You've never had a tool, a SaaS product that can offer that and guarantee it. Not that we guarantee it either, but it's very easily trackable about how you're taking somebody's work and you're basically getting rid of it. And now they have an AI doing it. It's important to keep that in mind.
Yeah. And I just want to talk from my own experience. And I am as a very small business. And I can tell you that some of my processes, let's talk about this podcast, right?
Mm,
In the past, recording for a podcast, preparing for a podcast, talking to a guest, getting the show notes, getting everything ready, doing the research, it's something that would take me between 2.5 and 3 hours to do.
mhm,
Today, with all of the AI tools that we talked about, I can probably churn that out in 20, 25 minutes and with no loss of quality. And I'm still very well prepared. And I'm still the one running the podcast, and I'm still the one that is deciding on the topics and all of
yeah,
that. But I'm just accelerating parts of my workflow that would take a lot of time. And I'm delegating those to tools that can actually do it way better than I could
mhm.
do.
It's
Right.
like there's
Because,
real experts that you can call on that you don't have to pay. Yeah.
yeah.
Several experts that do these tasks and do this ideation that can be in your strategy session before a podcast. And you have all these different people, which are really just AI or AI agents or GPTs or whatever you want to call them. That's exactly what's happening. I have a use case that's personal. I'm on a board for my church and I have to do the minutes. I'm the minutes guy. I got to write the minutes every week. And I hate doing minutes. I hate having to listen and write down. So what do? Of course, I record it on my phone. I don't want to have one of the AI bots. I just record it on my iPhone. And it's usually a 2 or 3 hour meeting. I shove it into the script. I gave each talker a name. This is John talking. This is Robert talking. Done. Throw it into Anthropic. Say, give me the minutes. And what's interesting about boards, you know this probably, is if there's a motion, it has to be word for word, especially if it's to do with spending money.
Uh-huh.
So I instruct the AI when somebody suggests a motion, it needs to be word for word in the minute. And and it makes my job so easy now. Maybe 10 minutes. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible, and that's just a very simple example, both that we just touched upon. Imagine what it can do for businesses. Now, thinking about strategies for implementing AI, um, do you have any practical step that you can recommend businesses that they should be taking to start integrating AI or thinking about AI?
Yeah, the very first thing is you need to understand two things. This is I hate to come on talking about how our framework works, but it's important. We developed this based on true life scenarios, and we're kind of the pioneers of this strategy, this framework. We've been doing it for over a year and a half now. And the point is, you have to understand the top down and bottom up approach of your organization. What does that mean? That means that you need to understand how the leadership sees AI. Are they scared of it? Are they excited about it? Are they willing to spend money on it? Strategy, top down, right? Then you got to understand the employees. The employees are the soldiers, right? So you got to think about what do we need to understand about our soldiers, their aptitude and their attitude. And specifically, are they scared that they're going to fire them? Well, we want you to have the option of whether you let people go or not, but you don't want them to be scared of that because the truth be known, we're not replacing them. We're replacing the tasks that make up their roles. So the people that are excited about it and that are willing to adopt it and make it part of their workflow, those can be really good employees. So we have to go into an organization. That's what the first thing we do. We call it the preliminary assessment. It's an hour-long call. It's usually a free call just because we need a baseline
Yeah.
to understand your organization. And that preliminary assessment, it dives into the top-down approach, like the leadership and their strategy and their willingness to adopt and spend money on tools, and then the employees and their willingness to be quite frankly, a lot of the time we look for what we call AI champions, those individuals that are super excited because of those people are going to be game changers in the organization,
Hmm.
change makers, I should say. And so we want to find those people. Then we also want to find the naysayers and the ones that are worried and be like, don't worry, let's get you upskilled. Let's make you relevant and so that you are indispensable because of what you have up here. And so
Hmm.
not because of the tasks you do.
Yeah, or not because of the tool that you use.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example. So thank you for that. I guess our audience, what I hear when I speak to a lot of my clients, when we talk about AI, about the opportunity, I'm part of several networking groups, and some people show a lot of concern about privacy, job security, data being leaked, all of those things. What could you say
Yeah,
to?
I laugh. I'm sorry I didn't do the laugh on privacy, but it's a topic that I can probably, if I was a betting man, I could go to Vegas and bet how many times I get asked about privacy. It's every single session, every single training. It's usually the first question, if not this, within the first few questions that get asked. And
Mhm,
the way I answer that is a few ways. One, depends on your fears. So what are you afraid of?
mhm,
If you're afraid of your Coca-Cola recipe being leaked, that's
mhm,
one thing, right? If you're concerned about AI taking over the world, that's a whole nother chicken little thing that we can't really help you with. If you
mhm.
think it's here, the genie's out of the bottle, we can't put it back in. Okay.
Yeah.
Even if America and all the main countries stop doing it, the nefarious actors are already have the technology and they could build it to the heart's content. So when it comes to you as a business using these tools, the beauty is when we build a project for a client, it's all behind firewall. It's all on a secure cloud server. And more importantly, it's the data is vectorized. So we actually vectorize the data coming and going. So your data is fine. There's no concern about your data getting out because we don't use the chat GPT model when we're
Mhm, mhm,
building tools. We
mhm.
build the tools based on the API and we can control where the data, how the data is coming and going. That's on the building stage. When your employees are using this, that's where the real the concern is with companies is all my employees on ChatGPT giving away all the farm and sharing customer data. So there's two ways to answer that question. The first one is I guess the CYA way. So the bitches cover your butt kind of thing is, yeah, it's not good to wave around your password in the mall either. I get that. You don't want to do that. It's not a good practice. But the technology behind that question is that if I were to upload, if I were to say to ChatGPT, Robert's password is I love strawberries or whatever,
Mhm,
and then Gerardo were to jump on there and ask ChatGPT, what is Robert Mitchell's password? It's not going to know it. That's not how
mhm.
the language model works. It doesn't
Yeah.
save it in a database, which is accessible by everybody. The language model is trained on corpus of data. When I say corpus, the whole internet. So if it says Robert Mitchell's password is I love strawberries 500,000 times, then yes, if Gerardo were to say, ask the question, it would know that because the likelihood is higher. But if he does it right now, it'll hallucinate. It'll hallucinate something. Or
Yeah.
more likely, it would say, I cannot give out passwords. That's not ethical, whatever. That's what it would say now.
Mhm,
When I'm answering the question about privacy, that's what I have to answer is that the technology doesn't work that way. But the
mhm,
good policy is don't do it because what the real reason that you don't do it is that their chat is logged. Your chat is what's used to train future models. Again, doesn't that's not a concern about my password, but if somebody hacks OpenAI and their servers and these chats are stored somewhere, then that is where you would want to be concerned, right?
mhm.
Just like your credit card data is not shared everywhere in the world, but if somebody hacks their servers at Target or wherever, then your information is leaked. So
Yeah.
it's a very difficult question, but most of the time it's not a concern because we're building products and then customers, your employees are allowed to use it. We just tell them what not to do. Don't
Yeah.
upload stuff about your customers.
Yeah. Okay. So we're coming to a close. Okay. On this, I would love, Robert, if you could just share with the audience the type of services that we at WSI are starting to provide for our clients on AI, related to AI. They know us for our digital marketing, they know us for our websites, they know us for our SEO and all of the different things that we've been doing for years. But AI has been a huge pivot in the last 12 months. And I think
Mhm.
some of the work that it's been done by you and your team and that we're now able to offer our partners and customers is great. So could you just paint the picture of the things that we offer now?
Yeah. Well, let me start with the genesis of that pivot. Okay. The genesis of WSI pivoting from a digital marketing expert to an AI consultancy expert was because we were already using lots of AI tools. And
Mm.
one of the first and the biggest experts in this are marketers, marketing experts. We've been using AI tools for years. Let me just be frank. Jasper's been around for a while. We're
Mhm.
already using some of those generative GPT-2s, the before GPT-4, right? And so my point is, we were already kind of aware of this technology. And when it started to come aware, we're like, you know what? We should be the ones that are kind of getting into it. And to be blunt, I was at MACON, the marketing AI conference last year, and the common theme was this: we're already expected to know this. Digital
Mhm.
marketers are already expected to be the AI experts. They're already coming to us expecting we know it. So we better know what we're talking about. So basically, we built this whole model because we knew that it was going to be a coming force. And so
Mhm.
what we do for our clients, to get back to your question, is we help the business owners, small, medium, large enterprise, we help them navigate the conversation. What does that mean? Well, we know that they're afraid of AI taking over certain aspects, making their business model or their product or their service irrelevant. So there's a big part of the questions of that first preliminary assessment is, how is AI going to potentially make your business model irrelevant? So we got to address that elephant in the room with all of our clients. But besides that, if that isn't a big concern, though, our big effort is going to be in helping the businesses get ahead of the competition. And so we do the preliminary assessment, looking at top down, bottom up, understanding the organization, understanding the number of departments and the aptitude attitude of the employees. Because we would then, next stage is we do an engagement. It's called the AIBA. It's
Mhm.
two different levels. One of the levels is workshops, upskilling employees and making them not fear for their job. One of the biggest takeaways we do on those workshops is like, don't worry, everybody. We're not going to get you fired. We're going to get you promoted.
Mhm.
So we're going to show you how more efficient you can be. So when we do this, we do the AIBA engagement, like I mentioned. First thing is workshops, two workshops. One is kind of basic and then one is more specific. And after the workshops, we do what's called deep dives. The deep dives go into each department. And then not just that, each workflow in the department with the biggest pain point. And then
Mhm.
we map that problem and they provide a solution, which we then present in a final report of all the solutions that we think are going to be helpful in the organization, the cost to deploy them, and the impact to the organization. We want to make sure they understand this tool will save $10,000. This tool will save 100 hours of time, you name it. And then we build those tools for our clients and we work as a fractional CAIO for those clients and hold their hand through deployment. That's what we do.
That's fantastic. And I've seen it in action and I've seen the impact it has with clients, and it's breathtaking because I don't think from all of the services that we could provide, I think this is one of the things that are you can see most immediately the impact, which is incredible because it's actually real dollars or it's real time that we're saving. So it's fantastic. Well, listen, Robert, it's been fantastic having you on the show today. Your insights into how AI can improve businesses, bring a competitive advantage, have been great. For our listeners, if you're ready to take the next step in your AI journey, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or to another WSI expert for guidance and support. Thanks again for tuning into Embracing Change. Make sure you like the podcast in all of the different platforms where it's distributed. If you could share some of the podcasts, that would be great as well. We're always looking for more listeners, and your patronage is always welcomed, and we're very thankful for that. Until next time, stay curious, stay innovative, stay human, and keep embracing change. Thank you.